There are moments in life when we feel completely exhausted, moments when our strength seems to fade, when problems pile up, when responsibilities feel heavier than our hearts can carry. In those moments, we quietly ask ourselves, how much longer can I go on? Where will I find the strength to keep moving forward? Mons. It is in moments like these that we begin searching for something deeper than motivation, stronger than willpower, and more lasting than temporary comfort. And long before we ever face these struggles, Jesus Christ had already shown us the path to true strength and resilience, not through empty words, but through the way he lived, prayed, served, forgave, trusted, and surrendered. Manda. From the beginning of his ministry to his final breath on the cross, his life became a living story of how fragile human hearts can be strengthened by divine power. Mind. Imagine him standing alone in the wilderness. After 40 days of fasting, his body was weak, his hunger was real, his strength was drained, and in that vulnerable moment temptation came. The easy path was right in front of him. He could have chosen comfort, he could have chosen quick relief, but instead he chose trust. He chose to depend fully on God's word rather than on physical needs. In that lonely desert, he showed us something powerful. Real strength is not found in what we can grab for ourselves, but in what we surrender to God. When everything around us feels uncertain, when solutions seem impossible, trust becomes our foundation. Just as he trusted the Father in the wilderness, he invites us to do the same in our moments of weakness. Throughout his life, this trust never wavered. Whether he was calming storms, facing rejection, or walking toward suffering, he remained anchored in God's will. He never demanded proof. He never rushed God's timing. He rested in the certainty that the Father knew what he was doing, even when the path was painful. No, and when the weight of life became overwhelming, he prayed again and again. He withdrew from the crowds, from the noise, from the expectations, from the pressure. He went into quiet places and lifted his heart to God. Prayer was not a ritual for him. It was his lifeline. In the Garden of Gethsemane, when sorrow crushed his soul and fear surrounded him, he fell to the ground and prayed. He wept, he wrestled, he pleaded, and yet, in that sacred struggle, he surrendered. He aligned his heart with God's will. While others slept, he prayed. While confusion filled the air, he found clarity. While weakness threatened his body, prayer renewed his spirit. And through this, he teaches us that prayer is where broken hearts are rebuilt. It is where fear is transformed into courage. It is where tired souls find rest. Without prayer, we collapse under pressure. With prayer, we rise again. But his strength did not stop at trust and prayer. It flowed outward into love and service. One evening, surrounded by his disciples, knowing that his suffering was near, he did something unexpected. He knelt. He took a towel. He washed their dusty feet. The king became a servant. The master became a helper. In that moment, he rewrote the definition of greatness. He showed that true strength is not about being above others, but about lifting others up. Serving does not weaken us. It refines us. It pulls our focus away from our own pain and teaches us compassion. It reminds us that even when we feel empty, God can pour strength into us through giving. When crowds were hungry, he fed them. When people were rejected, he embraced them. When the sick cried out, he stopped for them. Even when resources seemed limited, he trusted God to multiply what was offered in love. And as he served, he remained steady in faith. There was a day when he and his disciples were caught in a violent storm. Waves crashed against the boat. Wind roared around them. Fear filled every heart. They thought they would die, yet he slept. Not because the storm was small, but because his faith was strong. And when they woke him in panic, he spoke peace into chaos, and suddenly the storm obeyed. In that moment, he reminded them, and us, that faith does not mean the absence of storms. It means trusting God in the middle of them. And faith was the thread that ran through every miracle, every healing, every act of compassion. It was faith that brought healing to a suffering woman, faith that raised the dead, faith that moved mountains, faith that gave peace when nothing made sense. And he taught that even small faith, when placed in God, carries great power. Even trembling faith, even struggling faith, even fragile faith. And then there was forgiveness. Perhaps no moment reveals his strength more than the cross. Beaten, mocked, betrayed, nailed, bleeding, and still he prayed, "Father, forgive them." In the face of unimaginable injustice, he chose mercy. In unbearable pain, he chose love. In the darkest hour, he chose grace. Forgiveness was not weakness. It was divine power. He knew that unforgiveness chains the soul. It traps the heart in bitterness. It poisons peace. But forgiveness releases us. It heals us. It restores us. It frees us to live again. He taught that forgiveness must be continuous, not limited, not conditional, not selective. It must flow from a heart transformed by God's grace, like Joseph, who forgave his brothers, like saints who chose reconciliation over revenge, like believers who release pain instead of carrying it. Through forgiveness, we become strong enough to move forward without hatred weighing us down. And finally, through every step of his journey, he showed us what it means to surrender completely to God's will. In Gethsemane, he prayed words that echo through history, "Not my will, but yours be done." He did not deny the pain. He did not pretend it was easy. He acknowledged the fear, the sorrow, the cost, and yet he surrendered. He trusted that God's plan, even when it led through suffering, would lead to glory. That obedience, even when it hurts, brings life. That surrender, even when it feels like loss, becomes victory. And he walked in this surrender every day, when plans changed, when opposition rose, when waiting was required, when suffering intensified. Like Abraham trusting God, like Job enduring loss, like Peter learning to walk on water, like every believer who learns to wait in faith. He showed that accepting God's will does not mean giving up. It means giving over, placing our lives into hands that never fail. And through all this, trust, prayer, service, faith, forgiveness, surrender, he left us a living roadmap for resilience. He did not promise a life without storms. He promised strength within them. He did not remove every burden. He taught us how to carry them with grace. He did not take away every tear. He gave us hope beyond them. So when life feels overwhelming, when strength seems gone, when faith feels small, when forgiveness feels impossible, when God's will feels hard to accept, remember his story. Remember his footsteps. Remember that he walked this path first, so that we would never walk it alone. And as we continue reflecting on these truths, there is still so much more to uncover. How these principles shape our daily choices, our relationships, our purpose, and our future. How they transform ordinary lives into testimonies of grace. How they prepare us for what lies ahead. Because the story does not end with knowing these truths. It only truly begins when we start living them. Every day, life places new choices before us. Some are small and quiet, others are heavy and life-changing. In each of them, we are invited to decide, will I walk in my own strength, or will I walk in the strength God provides? There are mornings when you wake up already tired, not just in your body, but in your soul. Your heart feels burdened with worries about tomorrow. Your mind replays yesterday's failures. Your spirit feels dry. In those moments, the example of Jesus whispers to us again, "Trust me. Pray. Come close. Do not carry this alone." Tembius. When he rose early in the morning to pray, he was showing us that strength is renewed before the day begins. Before the crowds, before the demands, before the noise, he met with the Father. And when we learn to do the same, something changes inside us. Fear loses its grip. Anxiety loosens its hold. Peace quietly takes root. And as we walk through our days, we will meet people who are hurting, sometimes in ways they never speak about. A tired coworker, a lonely neighbor, a struggling family member, a friend who hides their pain behind a smile. In those moments, service becomes more than an action. It becomes a calling. Just as Jesus stopped for the broken, we are invited to stop too, to listen, to help, to encourage, to give even when we feel we have little left. And strangely, it is in giving that we are refilled. In lifting others, our own hearts are lifted. In blessing others, we ourselves are blessed. There will also be storms. Some storms arrive suddenly. Unspent loss, sudden illness, financial collapse, broken relationships. Others build slowly. Years of disappointment, unanswered prayers, silent struggles. In both kinds of storms, faith becomes our anchor. Like the disciples in the boat, we may cry out in fear. We may wonder if God sees us. We may feel abandoned. But Jesus is still in the boat. He is still present. He is still in control. Manger, faith does not mean pretending everything is fine. It means believing God is faithful, even when everything feels broken. It means holding on when emotions say give up. It means trusting when understanding fails. And along this journey, wounds will happen. People will disappoint you. Some will betray your trust. Some will speak words that cut deep. Some will walk away when you needed them most. In those moments, unforgiveness will try to take root in your heart. It will whisper, "Protect yourself. Stay bitter. Never let them hurt you again." But Jesus gently calls you to another way, a way of freedom. Forgiveness does not erase the past. It does not deny the pain. It does not excuse wrong. But it releases you from being controlled by it. It hands the burden to God. It says, "I will not let this pain define me." Every time you forgive, you grow stronger. Every time you let go, you become lighter. Every time you choose grace, your heart becomes more like Christ's. And then there are seasons when nothing makes sense, when prayers seem unanswered, when doors close without explanation, when dreams fall apart, when plans fail, when waiting feels endless. These are the moments when surrender is hardest. Domia, like Jesus in Gethsemane, you may pray, "God, if there is another way," and sometimes the answer is silence. Sometimes the answer is wait. Sometimes the answer is trust me. Accepting God's will does not mean understanding everything. It means believing that His wisdom is greater than yours, that His timing is perfect, that His purposes are good, even when you cannot see them yet. Nia. Many of the greatest testimonies are born in these hidden seasons, in quiet obedience, in unseen faithfulness, in patient waiting, fearful surrender. And one day, often when you least expect it, you look back and realize God was working the whole time. He was shaping you, strengthening you, refining you, preparing you, so that you could carry what is coming next. And slowly, almost without noticing, you begin to change. You respond with prayer instead of panic. You choose faith instead of fear. You offer forgiveness instead of resentment. You serve instead of seeking praise. You surrender instead of controlling. You become calmer in storms, stronger in trials, kinder in conflict, steadier in uncertainty. Not because life became easier, but because your roots grew deeper. The quiet miracle, And this is the quiet miracle. Jesus works in every heart that follows him. Men, he does not promise comfort without cost. He promises strength with purpose, peace with depth, joy with endurance, hope with eternity. As you continue walking this path, remember, you are not alone. Every prayer you whisper is heard. Every tear you shed is seen. Every step of obedience matters. Every act of love counts. Tombanja. And even when you feel weak, heaven calls you strong, because his strength is alive in you. This journey of resilience is not about perfection. It is about persistence. Not about never falling, but about always rising again through Christ. And as we move forward, there is still more to uncover. More about how these truths shape our destiny. More about how God turns pain into purpose. More about how ordinary lives become extraordinary testimonies. So, keep walking. Keep trusting, keep praying, keep serving, keep believing, keep forgiving, keep surrendering. Planned, because the story God is writing in your life is far from finished. In fact, some of the most beautiful chapters are still ahead. There will come days when you look back and barely recognize the person you once were. You will remember how easily fear controlled you, how doubt once paralyzed you, how anger once consumed you, how disappointment once drained you, and you will realize that God has been quietly transforming you all along, not through loud miracles every day, not through instant answers, not through easy shortcuts, but through daily faithfulness, through prayers whispered in tears, through obedience when no one was watching, through forgiveness when it felt unfair, through trust when logic said quit, through waiting when patience felt impossible. Little by little, your character has been shaped. You begin to notice that problems no longer shake you the way they used to. Trials no longer destroy your peace the way they once did. Criticism no longer defines you. Failure no longer crushes you. Loss no longer leaves you hopeless. You still feel pain. You still struggle. You still cry. But now you do it with faith. Now you do it with hope. Now you do it knowing that God is working even in what hurts. And something else begins to happen. As your life starts becoming a source of strength for others. People notice your calm in chaos, your patience in pressure, your kindness in conflict, your faith in uncertainty. They begin to ask, how do you stay strong? How do you keep going? How do you still believe? And without even realizing it, your story becomes a testimony. Not because you are perfect, but because God is faithful. Your scars become signs of healing. Your struggles become stories of victory. Your setbacks become stepping stones. Your tears become seeds of growth. And suddenly you understand why you had to walk through what you walked through. It was never wasted. Every trial taught you dependence. Every delay taught you patience. Every disappointment taught you trust. Every heartbreak taught you compassion. Every loss taught you eternity. You begin to see that resilience is not about becoming hard. It is about becoming holy, not about closing your heart, but about opening it wider to God. You learn to forgive faster, to pray deeper, to love stronger, to hope higher, to trust longer. You stop asking only, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is God teaching me through this? And with that question, maturity is born. There will still be seasons when you feel weak. Days when your faith feels small. Nights when fear returns. Moments when doubt whispers again. But now you know where to go. You go back to prayer, back to scripture, back to surrender, back to trust, back to the cross. You remember that your strength has never come from you. It has always come from Him. And in those moments, grace meets you again. Grace that lifts you. Grace that restores you. Grace that renews you. Grace that carries you forward. Because God is not finished with you. Banya, He is still shaping your story. Still opening doors. Still healing wounds. Still fulfilling promises. Still preparing blessings. Leaned. Some you will see soon. Some you will see later. Some you may only understand in eternity. But all of them are working together for your good. So when tomorrow feels uncertain, when today feels heavy, when yesterday still hurts, remember this, you are being strengthened, you are being refined, you are being prepared, you are being loved. Every step you take in faith matters. Every prayer you pray matters. Every time you choose obedience matters. And as you continue this journey, let your heart remain open. Open to God's voice, open to His correction, open to His comfort, open to His calling. Because the same Jesus who walked through storms, deserts, gardens, and crosses is walking with you now. And He is leading you towards something greater than you can imagine. And there is still more to discover.